Before the pyramids fell silent, before the jungle swallowed temples, before the city lights drowned the stars, there were stories. Stories whispered by wind through ruins. Stories not carved into triumphal arches or sung by bards in golden courts, but stories left behind in ash, in blood, in broken pottery, in the quiet sighs of those who served, suffered, and survived. This is not the history of kings and marble. This is the history of breadcrumbs, broken sandals, of latrine keepers and sewer boys, of mothers who gave birth beside firelight, and children who played beneath roofs made of rot and sky. You are entering a different Rome tonight, not the one of Caesar's laurel and victory, but the one that breathed beneath it, the Rome of shadows, smoke, and silence. Close your eyes. Let the ruins speak. Let the dust of time settle gently on your thoughts, and drift with us into the heart of the forgotten. Close your eyes now. Let the noise of the modern world dissolve, like mist at the edge of memory. Tonight, we travel not through space, but through the folds of forgotten time, to places where the fires have long gone out, where queens once whispered to stars, and where honey, warm and golden, was once more precious than gold. This is a story of ashes, of cities turned to dust, beneath the slow breath of centuries. A story of queens, some crowned in emerald and pearl, others carved into myth by the hands of silence, and a story of honey, its sweetness carried by bees, through temples, gardens, and the secret chambers of ancient minds. You do not need to follow, you only need to drift. Let each word settle like a feather. Let each image melt into the landscape behind your eyes. You are safe here. The journey begins. Beneath the glory, beneath the marble, the empire awakens in dust. Here, in the belly of the eternal city, the morning does not break. It groans, cracked brick by cracked brick. Insulas lean like weary old men, for stories high, 6, even 7, wooden walkways creak above open courtyards, each room barely wide enough to stretch your arms. A woman opens a shutter. The window is just a hole in the wall. She peers into the haze, gray breath of a city that never truly sleeps. Children stir. A boy coughs. Someone sloshes a chamber pot into the street below. Rome is not marble. Rome is red dust underfoot, the clang of iron pots, the heavy smell of mildew and sweat and bread. 1,000 hearths in 1,000 cubicles. Ignite, and the day begins. They say Rome fed its people, but in truth, Rome fed its shadow. In these rooms, hunger has a voice. It hums through the floorboards, echoes in empty bowls. A mother breaks stale bread into broth, eyes hollow from too many nights, waiting for oil, for grain, for something more. The children do not ask. They have learned that silence is softer than despair. Each bite is measured, each swallow a ritual. The porridge is thin, the bread crumbles, the water tastes of iron and dust. Still they eat, because the body remembers, even when the soul begins to forget. There are no quiet streets in Rome, only rivers of flesh and ash and noise. Men shout, women bargain, children chase dogs through puddles of old wine and rot. The baker's fire smokes from a wall oven, its soot painting the brick like war paint. Nearby, a butcher slaps flies from offal and flings scraps to the gutter. And the gutters, they run like streams in springtime, not with rain, but with the city's bowels. Blood, sewage, slop. A mule slips on a stone. Its driver curses the gods. A fishmonger sings in broken Greek. This is the symphony of empire, a cacophony of appetites, a feast of survival. To relieve oneself in Rome was not a private thing. It was civic, ritual, shared. Stone seats line the wall, smooth with centuries of use. No partitions, no shame. You sit where others sit. Feel the cool air rising from the channel below, and hope the sponge on a stick is clean. It never is. Men talk here. Deals are struck between grunts and groans. Philosophy is whispered while relieving the bowels. And through it all, the water runs, a slow trickle beneath the stone, carrying away the empire's waste. To meet the Tiber, as if the river could forget, it begins with a whisper, a spark, a breath of wind, and then flame. The wood beams catch like tinder. The stairwells become chimneys. Smoke pours like a beast from the roof, blacker than midnight. There are no fire brigades, only neighbors, buckets, prayers. A mother screams. Her child is still upstairs. Someone hurls a clay pot through a window. Ash falls like snow, coating the alley in cinders. The fire devours the night. It does not care who you are, senator or slave. And when morning comes, only stone remains. They call it panem et circenses, bread and games. It is not joy they seek here, but distraction. At the arena gate, they press forward, thirsting for violence. Vendors cry out. The scent of fried fish, oil, and blood wafts through the stones. Posters flap in the wind. Today, the Thracian fights the Gaul. A woman sells dates from a basket. A boy sells wax figurines of dead champions. Some say it is justice, others call it theater, but all agree it is Rome, and Rome must be fed. Justice in Rome was carved in stone, and yet it bent like reed. For the rich, the law spoke Latin, but its truth was in coin. A man without a name pleads his innocence. The magistrate does not listen. He sees only sandals, not soul. Behind him, a slave receives 30 lashes for stealing bread. His body knows what justice tastes like: salt, iron, and dust. And still, Rome calls itself eternal, not because it is just, but because it endures. The bath was Rome's church, a temple not of gods, but of heat. Steam curls like incense. Water sloshes. Voices echo. The gossip of senators. The moans of aching backs. Here, the citizen is reborn, if only for a moment. But the pipes are lined with lead. The heat stirs parasites. The skin, cleansed of dirt, remains full of sickness. Still they come to scrub the body and silence the mind, to forget, to float, to vanish into the steam, like prayers unheard. At night, even Rome forgets. The streets quiet, the torches fade. Only the rain remains, tapping on broken tile. Like a ghost, inside, a man lies awake. Rats race above him. His stomach growls. He thinks of tomorrow, but not with hope. Sleep is not peace. It is escape, a journey into shadow, into memory, into forgetting. Beneath the Senate, beneath the forums, beneath the aqueducts and arches, Rome lives, not in triumph, but in survival, in cracked bowls and calloused hands, in broken roofs and borrowed prayers. They will not write epics of these people. No statues shall bear their names, but they are Rome, and Rome, in all her marble splendor, stands on their weary backs. The Roman aqueducts, they say they flowed with genius. And yes, the arches soared. Yes, the fountain shimmered. But for her, water is a burden, a jar taller than her thighs, filled each morning from the corner cistern. She walks slow. The clay presses into her hip. A single misstep, and it will shatter, and so will the day. Water, it is life, but also labor. Every drop earned. Before the city stirs, the bakers rise. Beneath the streets, where the ovens hiss, and the air is thick with flour and fire, They do not speak much, only knead, fold, shape. Dough becomes sustenance, crust becomes coin. But none of this bread will pass their lips today. They will feed the empire, yet remain hungry. The loaf you break, soft and warm, has been bought with another man's sleep. The patrician's table will gleam, silverware. Roasted figs wine as red as rubies. But first, the grinding, the scrubbing. The burning that I end the kitchens, the slaves begin their rituals. Grain beneath stone, ash in their lungs. They are ghosts in the villa shadow. Their names will be forgotten, but their hands will feed feasts for senators who do not know them. They have no mourning, only tasks. They come, these sons of citizens, with wax in hand and worry in heart. Thetia chereless this room, not with kindness, but with rhythm. He chants. Virtue is discipline, obedience is wisdom. The boys repeat, their voices small, their eyes not yet dull, but growing dim. A wrong answer brings the cane, a right one brings nothing. This is how Rome teaches, not to think, but to endure. To remember. To obey. The toga sways like a banner, clean, white, divine. But look lower, to where the hem meets the street. There mud clings. There, Thetrith seeps in. No servant can sweep away the stench of suffering. No sandal escapes the mud of misery. Even senators walk among cries. Even power must cross filth to reach marble. And still, the poor remain unseen, even when stepped over. In the market, the tongue is sharper than the blade. The merchant smiles. He weighs your grain, but the scale favors him. He praises his olive oil, but it's watered. He calls his cloth Egyptian, but it's Gallic. And still, we buy. We know the lie, but accept the illusion. In Rome, truth is a luxury. Survival is a trade. Everyone deceives. Everyone eats. Everyone pays. Justice sleeps here, and so do the guards. The chains rust. The walls drip. Time stretches, like rope waiting to snap. A thief, a debtor, a man who angered the wrong patron. They wait for judgment, for release, for death. There is no trial, only time, only rot. This is not punishment. This is forgetting. Before the sun climbs, they come. The cart rolls slow. The bodies do not stir. Fever took some. Knives took others. Old age took few. There is no ceremony. Know him, only the rumble of wheels and the twitch of the mule's ear. Rome disposes quietly. Its dead vanish, like whispers. Before day begins, the living do not watch. They've seen it before. Here is the house of the gods. Granite columns, bronze flames, smoke curling like sacred silk. But on the steps, a woman prays to a pebble. She does not speak Latin. She has no coin for sacrifice. Her god is small, shaped by her own fingers, worn smooth by kisses, cradled like a child. The temple priest passes her, robes shining, eyes blind, but her whisper reaches heaven faster than any ritual. Rome stands tall, on pillars of law, of stone, of war, but beneath it, a darker Rome breathes. In its sewers, children play. In its tunnels, lovers meet. In its shadows, truth survives. For every golden dome, a dozen broken roofs. For every triumphal arch, a dozen broken backs. This is not the Rome of history books. It is the Rome of blood, of breath, of bone. It is the Rome that endures. And in the silence between scenes, in the hush of a sleepless night, you can still hear it breathing. The Tiber, once sacred, now sighs with rot. Its waters were once bloodlines. Now they carry refuse, echoes, and dreams already drowned. A boy waits with string and nail, not for fish, but for luck. He has no father, only the river. It teaches patience, teaches loss. He watches the current, and for a moment, feels part of something ancient, something forgotten, something immense. And when he returns with nothing, he still returns. The square is vast, but his corner is enough. Each morning, he comes with his cloth of crumbs, a feast for birds, and a ritual for memory. He does not eat first. They do, winged, loud, relentless. He watches them swarm, as he once watched children circle a bowl. Behind him, silver platters shine. A goblet tilts in laughter. But here, in the flurry of feathers, he finds communion. He feeds life, because no one fed him. She lives above Rome, yet beneath its notice. Widowed young, she took a room near the sky. Fewer stairs, fewer voices, less breath. Her world is rooftops, sun-bleached cloth, cool evening winds, and the slow conversation of pigeons. She sings not with voice, but with rhythm. Clothes pinned, blankets folded, moments remembered. The city roars below, but up here, time moves like dusk. So soft, almost kind. Rome gnaws at its own bones. Stairs crumble, walls lean like drunks. Stone teeth, loose in the jaw of empire. A boy falls, scrapes his knee. No one sees, or perhaps they all do, and simply know there is no ointment for this city's skin. He presses dust into the wound, as his grandfather taught. This is Rome's medicine: earth, silence, and scars. She lights it the same way every night. Wick first, whisper second. The flame is small, but it reveals much. Shadows of things long gone, or not yet born. She sees her mother's face in the flicker. She sees escape, and dares not name it. Oil is precious. Light is luxury. But this flame, this tiny sun in a clay bowl, is hers. And for a moment, Rome does not matter. The well is more than thirst. It is where secrets fall. Like droplets, whispers travel with the rope. Gossip floats with the bucket. Here, truths are traded. Whose child is not her husband's? Which baker watered the grain? Why the landlord now limps? Women lean in, hands grip cold stone. And though none raise their voice, the city listens. Not all Romans sleep in marble. Where city becomes field, where empire forgets to look, someone buried someone. With love, no coin for a marker, no prayers from priests, just a stone and silence. The sandals lie beside the earth. Their owner, perhaps, walked far to say goodbye. This grave has no name, but it has meaning, and that, in Rome, is rare. By night he hunts, what Rome breeds in shadow. The rat-catcher knows every alley, every crack in the city's skin. He speaks softly, to bait the silence. His traps do not hum with cruelty. They sing survival. He does not fear plague. He fears forgetfulness. If he dies, no one will take his place, and the city, left unwatched, will drown in teeth. When Rome sleeps, its dogs remember. They gather, not to fight, but to share. One finds a bone, another shares warmth. They do not build empires, but they know loyalty. They do not write laws, but they know mercy. A crust falls. One whines, then retreats. Even beasts in this city know the hierarchy of hunger. Stone remembers what scrolls forget. Here, scratched between fig vendors and forgotten doors, are the hearts of the people. Julia loves Tertius. Death to the landlord. Bread was poison. The gods sleep. Rome's true history is not in marble. It is here, etched in desperation and laughter, in curses and poems, in words meant for no one, and therefore meant for everyone. The wall listens and never judges. Beneath the grandeur of domes and frescoed villas, there squatted the latrine keepers, custodians of rot and echo, the empire's hidden custodians of waste. They spoke little, mouths choked by the scent of excrement and lime powder, eyes red from ammonia steam rising from stone floors. Rome built its greatness on discipline, on aqueducts, on columns that sang the sun's shadow, but also on the backs of men who scrubbed dung from the empire's bowels. Night or day, they worked by torchlight, burning incense in corners to mask the stench, singing softly to forget the taste of human filth. Some wept, some prayed, and some grew numb, dreaming of clean rivers and fields of wind-bent barley. The children of Rome were not all heirs to marble gardens. Many were born in shadows, in tenements so crowded, even rats forgot their way. The insulae, rising thin, cracked, and close to collapse, were homes of the forgotten. Wood creaked like bones, and fires raced down corridors like wolves through straw. Children slept on shared straw mats, the lullaby of their world. Screams from the street below, lovers quarreling, merchants brawling, and the soft scurry of rodents gnawing wax tablets. Still they played, with rocks, bones, and scraps of string. They chased each other between columns of ruin, their laughter somehow more honest than the coins of senators. Before every banquet in the palace, there was hunger in the forum. Every morning, plebeians lined up for bread, coarse, unleavened, and often stale. Yet it was survival, a token from the state, a contract written in grain and silence. The state fed them not out of love, but fear, for the mob, when starved, had teeth sharper than steel. Women whispered to each other about flour quality, about mold, about rumors of rot. Children slept on their mothers' feet, and near the front, beggars fought over crusts, not with knives, but with memories of being ignored. By the slow pulse of the Tiber, women bent like willows, beating clothes against stone, until blood rose through their calluses like ink. They laughed at scandal, gossiped about senators, but their mirth wore the edges of fatigue. The river knew them. Its currents softened their curses. Its frogs kept their secrets. Its water swallowed the filth of Rome and returned silence. When the garments dried, they smelled of riverweed and smoke, the perfume of plebeian nobility. They carried their tubs uphill, backs bowed, mouths shut, but inside them, stillness older than marble. Meat in Rome had its own hierarchy, oxen for feasts, lamb for the temple, but for the poor, tongue, lung, feet, and marrow bone. The butcher knew who could afford what, and he judged not with his eyes, but with the shuffle of a sandal, the tremble in a child's hunger. His cleaver sang on bone. His fingers traced the map of sinew and value. To the hungry, he was priest and executioner. To the state, just another vendor of decay. He wrapped the meat in fig leaves and handed it to mothers with downcast eyes. They bowed, not out of custom, but because shame and gratitude looked the same. Even empire makes trash, and Rome made mountains of it, outside the walls, where nobody important dared breathe. The Monte Testaccio rose like a silent tomb, not of heroes, but of amphorae shattered after oil was poured and drunk. Scavengers climbed its flanks like pilgrims, searching for half-burnt grain, for iron nails, for anything the wealthy forgot had value. They lived in tents made of stitched leather, burning horse dung to cook cracked lentils, while overhead hawks circled, as if the dead themselves might fly. Some jobs were not written in contracts. They were given to the desperate, to boys with narrow ribs and no family. He crawled into Rome's veins, carrying a torch in one hand, a club in the other, the torch for light, the club for rats. The sewers whispered like ghosts. They spoke in trickles and burbles, in strange echoes that mimicked laughter. He found coins, rings, bones, and once, a wax tablet still bearing a lover's curse. He did not read, but he understood the meaning of dark things floating in silence. She had seen over 100 births, and buried many more than she helped breathe. The midwife, keeper of life and death, carried herbs in her pouch, prayers in her mouth, and grief in her spine. She whispered to the gods of the hearth, of fertility, of mercy. But most of all, she whispered to the mothers, soft words that wrapped around their pain like warm linen. When the child came, and the scream was sharp and wet, she bit her own knuckle, not out of joy, but because she knew what waited outside that door was harder than the fire inside. Death in Rome did not sleep. It came in droughts, in fires, in fevers from the east. And when it came in numbers, the corpse burners were summoned, their hands blistered from pine pitch, their eyes red from salt and flame. They did not speak names, only counted bodies. The smoke rose slowly, sometimes black, sometimes white, depending on the condition of the soul. They joked, they carried no talismans. They were the last embrace, not of family, but of fire. And finally, when the wine casks closed, when even the gods curled into marble slumber, Rome slept, not the sleep of peace, but of exhaustion, the kind of sleep that presses heavily, wrapping its arms around the poor first. The senators snored in perfumed chambers, the gladiators curled around their wounds, the washerwomen breathed against damp walls, and the sewer boys, they slept with the torch still burning beside them. Rome, empire of laws, of blood, of brilliance, was just a sleeping animal now, a lion beneath linen, a city built by the waking and held together by the dreams of the unseen. She does not sleep while others dream. Beneath beams sagging from years of soot and sorrow, the candle woman trims her oil lamp in silence. Her fingers, burned from years of tending flame, move with the instinct of ritual. She lights one wick, then another, for the hallway, for the stair, for the room of the dying man next door. The light is her offering, to the gods, to the darkness, to the worn-out hopes of her neighbors. In her flickering world, she is priestess and sentinel. No coin for marble gods, only the steady glow of a woman who keeps Rome from vanishing in shadow. Between cries, the city holds its breath. A midwife crouches, low to the floor, where life clings closest to the dust. She has seen the arrival of emperors and beggars alike. None came easier than this. She speaks in murmurs known only to mothers and gods. The city above may roar with taverns and thieves, but here, in this room of sweat and shriek, the pulse of Rome begins anew. Blood, breath, and blessing, each birth a fragile rebellion against death. She catches the child, wraps it in rags, and waits for the first cry. A cry that will one day echo in the forum, or die in a gutter, all the same to her. She is midwife to the unknown. No one dreams of being a thief, not truly, but hunger sharpens courage, and the ledges of Rome offer more than air. They offer bread. He climbs like a cat across crumbling beams, familiar with each creak of timber. Below, the city slumbers or pretends to. He knows which shutters rattle loose, which wives forget to bolt the door. He takes only what will not be missed. Half a loaf, a jar of olives, a woolen wrap, and always the risk of dogs, blades, or iron justice. But tonight, luck stays silent, and he vanishes with the shadows into a city where mercy and theft wear the same face. There are places in Rome no one visits, corners of alley and ash, where the names on stones have faded into whispers. She kneels by one such place, a pot of ashes, a few coins, and a handful of dried rosemary. He died without pomp, a stonemason who never carved his own name. She, once his wife, now just a shadow among shadows. She speaks softly to the dead, not for answers, but for memory, a ritual of remembering, so that Rome's dust does not devour everything. Even here, in the alley of silence, grief is a sacred rite. He was born beneath a butcher's table, raised among bones and curses. Now he wanders where men fear to tread, the night streets of Subura. No collar, no master, yet he knows the city's heart. He sees the drunkard stumble home, the soldier weep in secret, the girl who runs with stolen bread. He remembers them all, and when the torches flicker out, and silence coils tight around the stones, he waits. For what? Perhaps for dawn, or for someone to notice that he too is part of Rome. It begins with a whisper, a spark beneath the floorboards, a coal forgotten by a sleepy baker. The fire licks the dust, finds oil, finds straw, finds breath. It climbs like ivy, devouring time. But tonight, someone wakes. A cough, a child's cry, a mother's scream. Water shouts, buckets pass from hand to hand. The fire dies for now, but every Roman knows. Wood remembers flame, and the city is never far from burning. He builds walls for others, never for himself. Each stone lifted is a memory, a hope for coin, a shield against collapse. He works with prayer on his lips, not for wealth, but for sturdiness. The gods of brick and beam are quiet, but he leaves them offerings. A copper ring, a feather, a crust of bread. He touches the plaster, murmurs a blessing. Let this one hold, then moves on. The wall stands. He disappears. She has not eaten since noon, but the grapes must last. One by one, she rolls them in her palm, like coins, like prayers. They are not sweet enough to chase away the fear, but she eats them anyway. Her father is asleep, her mother gone. The night belongs to the loud and the cruel. She stays quiet, she watches, and she survives, like the grapes, clinging to the vine of morning. She no longer hears well, but her needle knows the rhythm. In out, a tunic for a boy who left for the legions. 15 years ago. She does not cry. She does not stop. The fabric has become her son. Each stitch, a word she never said. Each thread, a year she carried him. The city sleeps, but her hands do not. And in the quiet, she repairs what cannot be returned. Even the gods grow old in Rome. Statues chipped, faces weathered by smoke and rain. Their altars are dust, their names spoken only by the wind. Yet some still leave offerings, not from faith, but from memory, because even silence deserves witnesses. A crust of bread, a whispered name, a coin beneath a stone. These are the rituals of survival, the sacred rites of the forgotten. In the city that never sleeps, someone must remember the gods of dust. Below the feet of emperors and priests, below the columns that claw at heaven, flows the quiet rot of the city. The drain is old, older than the gods above, its stones worn by centuries of filth and prayer. Here, discarded idols weep in the dark, and coins cast in hope are dulled by silence. Even the divine must be drained, and Rome, glorious golden Rome, bleeds gently, night after night, into the earth beneath its own temples, before the orators shout, before the Senate roars, before statues shine beneath the sun. He comes, broom in hand, steps soft against ancient stones. He is Rome's first voice of the day. He clears the leaves, the spilled wine, the forgotten sandal. He works with reverence, for he walks where Cicero once walked. But no one thanks the sweeper. Only the wind, which carries his dust across the empire. Bread is the first god of the poor. Not Jupiter, not Mars, but the crust that keeps bones from breaking. At dawn, they gather. Widows, orphans, men with hollow eyes. They wait for grain, for the handout that says, "You are still Roman." The boy holds his basket like a chalice. He does not speak. The line moves slowly. One loaf, one life. It is not enough, but it is something, and Rome endures. The city stinks, of sweat, of blood, of wine gone sour. But here, in this little room, is alchemy. The apprentice grinds iris root, mixes rose with myrrh, whispers names of women he's never touched. Perfume is memory trapped in oil. A senator's mistress, a gladiator's tomb, a goddess no longer worshipped. He bottles longing, drop by drop, and dreams of a future that smells like cedar and gold. Outside, Rome steams, but here it floats. He sleeps beside beasts, and dreams of chariots. Every night, he brushes them with care, each stroke a whisper of freedom. The horses know him, his touch, his voice, his hidden tears. They are fed better than he is, but they too are slaves. Together, they wait for the gates to open, for the thundering moment, when one of them, beast or boy, might fly. The laughter is gone. The coins have been counted. The song has ended. He sits alone now, among the ghosts of drink, his hands red with wine and grease. He knows the stories of every cup, the arguments, the seductions, the confessions, and he keeps them all. Like a priest, he pours one last cup, not to drink, but to remember, to toast the night, and all who disappear with it. She walks the alleys barefoot, a basket of cures upon her hip, for coughs, for dreams, for love that won't stay. Each herb has a voice, a story, a sting. She learned them from her mother, who learned them from the forest. In a city of marble, she is made of root and ash. People call her witch, healer, fool, but they buy what she offers, because even in Rome, the gods do not heal. Only the hands of old women do. He speaks to no one, but his lamps speak for him. They carry stories across night tables, into shrines, onto ships, into the beds of lovers and the tombs of children. Each lamp, a vessel of shadow and warmth. He knows their destinations, though he does not travel. He is old, but his light burns on, in 1,000 unseen places. A man forgotten, whose flames never are. He copies laws by day, but by night, he copies truth. Poems that praise passion, scrolls that question power, letters never meant for the forum. His ink flows in defiance. If he's caught, it will mean lashes, or worse, but he writes anyway, because Rome must remember, not only what it declares, but what it dares to whisper. Above the frescoes, beyond the reach of servants, the attic holds Rome's truest memory. A sandal too small for war, a doll missing its arms, a letter never sent. These are not relics, they are echoes, the pieces no one writes about, but everyone leaves behind. The dust here is sacred. It has settled like time itself, layer by layer, until forgetting becomes the most Roman thing of all. There is no room below, so he climbs to the roof, where pigeons mutter and stars blink. Here, wind is a lullaby and the moon a blanket. He lies among broken tiles and sleeping cats, dreaming not of war or wealth, but of silence. Above the shouts, the debts, the hunger, he sleeps closer to Jupiter than Caesar. And when morning comes, he will descend, still nameless, but touched by sky. They have no collars, no names, yet they guard Rome as fiercely as soldiers. By day they beg, by night they watch. Their eyes gleam beneath stalls of figs and fish bones, Their feet remember every alley. They know where the bones fall and where the bodies are buried. Rome belongs to them in ways no emperor can claim. And when the stars wheel above, they do not howl. They listen. She writes though he is long gone. Every week, another letter folded, sealed, never sent. She speaks to ashes in an urn, asks what he dreams now, what he remembers. The ink runs when she cries, but she does not stop, for in the writing he returns, in sandals by the door, in the scent of wine on the breeze. Her pen is a bridge between now and never, and Rome holds her as gently as a mother who has also lost. He once sailed, now he walks, slow steps by the Tiber, where river meets memory. The shells he gathers are cracked, tiny, barely worth the lifting, but to him, each holds a sea, each a whisper of salt and wind, of love lost in a distant harbor. Rome knows him, not as a name, but as a rhythm, the quiet counting of a man who gathers the past in his palm. Her fingers never stop, even as sleep pulls at her eyes, even as the child beside her breathes slow and deep. She spins stories into thread, dowry cloth, burial shrouds, tunics for men she'll never meet. The spindle hums a lullaby of hunger and patience, and when the candle gutter flames, she whispers thanks to the fates, for thread, for time, for the quiet mercy of endurance. He dreams in feathers. The chirps lull him to sleep, soft and steady as a prayer. By day, he haggles for coin. By night, he wonders what it's like to fly. He names them all, each sparrow, each finch. They know his voice, and in dreams they lift him skyward, above the circus, the baths, the endless orders of men. When he wakes, the cages are still locked, but the sky remains. She was once adorned in silk, now stone and shadow dress her. The silence is not punishment, it is memory. She counts her days in heartbeats, her regrets in breaths. Outside, the city forgets her. Inside, she forgets the city. Only the chains remain, cold, familiar, whispering that all things once cherished can become iron. Here is the true temple, not marble, not golden, but scorched brick and soot-darkened gods. The fire burns low, but it burns still. A whisper of the old prayers lingers in the smoke. For birth, for bread, for coming home. The Lauras watch with crumbling eyes, but they watch. And when the family sleeps, the hearth remembers what they forget. They buried him with honors, and time buried those who honored him. Now only bees visit, drawn by the wildflowers that crack the stone. Their hum is not mourning, it is music. The dead do not speak, but the earth does. And in Rome, the line between memory and forgetting is as thin as a wing. He is no god, no soldier, no priest, just a watcher. From this height, all is small, the sins, the songs, the sorrows. He does not judge, only sees. And each night, as darkness folds the city into itself, he whispers a name, not of a man or street, but of Rome itself, as if saying it aloud might keep it from vanishing. That it once held a roof aloft. Now, it holds only silence. A finger of history pointing nowhere. The names chiseled into it. Heroes once, now ghosts in the wind. But listen closely. When the dusk settles, you may hear a murmur, not of men, but of stone itself. For marble forgets slowly, and even broken columns remember who leaned on them. No priest tends it, no citizen bows, yet someone remembers. Coins that shine faintly in moonlight, petals dried by time, a feather left like a sigh. This is how the old gods survive, not in temples, but in the hands of the unnoticed. The altar speaks to no one, and to everyone. It asks nothing, only receives the quiet weight of longing. She once spoke futures here. Kings listened. Now only the dust speaks. Every grain once held a prophecy, burned from bay leaves, bones, and stars. She is gone, but her silence has weight. If you breathe in deeply, you may taste what Rome once feared to ask. For oracles do not die. They simply become the dust that settles on forgotten hopes. Before empire, before marble, there was a cave. Here, 2 infants once suckled a she-wolf. Here, Rome began, naked, wild, trembling. The lamp burns still, not for gods, not for men, but for memory. The shadows it casts are older than cities. They flicker, and in that flicker, Romulus still raises his hand to the sky. He walks paths older than roads, paths once walked by gods in disguise. The city growls below, but up here, wind and wool are his only kingdom. He speaks to his sheep in songs no one else knows, and they follow, as if they too remember the hills before the marble came. Every evening, he returns, not to a home, but to a place Rome forgot to swallow. And in that forgetting, something sacred survives. She once stood perfect, a goddess in form and fire. Now she leans, broken, beneath ivy's embrace. Yet beauty clings to her ruin. The snail knows her touch. The wind still kisses her cheek. Worship has left, but presence remains. And sometimes, when no one watches, you might see her smile again, soft as spring returning to stone. Pilgrims once climbed these steps, but others, unseen, were dragged below them. Not all chains clink in dungeons. Some linger, waiting to remind us. Even holy places cast long shadows. The temple above sings of glory. The ground below hums of pain. Both are true. Rome is not marble or myth. It is also rust. He writes what others forget. He copies texts no one will read. He speaks to parchment as if to a friend. Outside, the Senate debates, the forum roars. But up here, time slows to the scratch of a quill. He is a keeper of silence, a guardian of vanishing thoughts. When he sleeps, his dreams are ink black and full of voices no longer heard. Spoons, not swords, build a city. Beneath every grand feast is a boy who rubbed olive oil into wood. He dreams not of conquest, but of balance. A curve that fits the hand, a grain that catches the light. His father does not speak much, but the spoons speak for him. And Rome, in all its glory, eats from their silence. They rise like prayers, wings beating against gravity, against time. Each feather a memory, each flight a letting go. No one remembers who built this dovecot, but every morning, Rome looks up, and for a moment, its wounds fly. Its sins are white, its past forgets to ache, and the sky forgives. No doors creak here, only breathe. No footsteps echo, only settle. Once, laughter lived here, then voices, then silence. Now the house inhales moss and exhales dust, yet it remains listening. The walls lean slightly, as if remembering a child's name. The floor still holds warmth, not from fire, but from memory. Some places do not die, they simply sleep. Pain is older than gods, so is the hand that soothes it. In the shadowed alleys of Subura, he does not promise healing, only silence after agony. Each tooth he pulls is a small history, a stone torn from a wall. He whistles while he works, not because he is cruel, but because the city is louder, and his music is gentler than Rome's ache. Before fountains, before marble lips spouted myth, there were footsteps, bare, steady, soaked in rhythm. They carry the city's thirst, not with pride, but with precision. The jug is heavier than a sword, yet no general's name lasts as long as a mother who spilled no drop. Rome drinks because of them, and forgets them with each sip. Time speaks in hours, but ticks in gears. In the dark belly of the city, one wheel turns another. It does not see the sun, It does not ask to be thanked, but without its grind, Rome would forget to breathe. The city's skin is marble, its mind is gold, but its heart is rust, turning slowly, faithfully. She does not speak. She listens, for the wall remembers everything. The war cries, the lovers' whispers, the lies, the lullabies. Stone is a stubborn memory. It forgets names, but never voices. She leans in, not for gossip, but for proof that something once mattered here. He does not march in legions, but he repairs what marches. With every stitch, he holds the city together. Not in marble, but in soul and string. Rome walks because of him, because he bends over thread while emperors stand tall. And when their statues crumble, his sandals still walk. No triumph here, no laurel crown, only a name, nearly gone, carved by someone who needed the earth to remember. The olive tree leans lovingly. It grew in silence, watered not by rain alone, but by grief. And still, it bears fruit, bitterness and sweetness, as memory always does. It slipped, perhaps by accident, or prayer, a coin meant for passage, or for bread. Now it lives in the crack of Rome, between footsteps, between centuries. It has heard nothing, yet witnessed all. A tiny empire of copper, quietly surviving every fall. There was once too much to say. Now, nothing needs saying. He watches the sky, lets the poem stay unwritten, because silence has weight. And Rome is already a poem, written by time, spoken by pigeons and read by ruins. He listens, and that is enough. Now the marble exhales. Now the echoes dim. Beneath the colonnades, beneath the feasts, beneath the roar, Rome sleeps. Not in defeat, but in peace. Its dreams are full of wolves and kings, mothers and sandals, dust and olives. And when morning returns, it will open its eyes, ancient and newborn all at once. For cities do not die. They simply dream longer than we do. Beneath every stone, beneath every monument to glory, there breathes a quieter story, of hands that built but never owned, of voices unheard behind the marble, of lives woven into the city's pulse. Rome's true soul is not the emperor's statue, but the dust that gathers in its shadow, the breath that stirs its silence, the memory that outlasts stone. Time does not erase, it transforms. Marble cracks become gardens, ruins become homes for birds. The past does not vanish, it becomes something else, something softer, something that hums beneath the noise. Rome is not just a city of stones, it is a city of becoming, always changing, always enduring. Even in the oldest stones, life finds a way. A seed cracks the marble. A new story begins. The future grows from the forgotten places, from those small, silent moments that history almost forgot. Rome teaches us this, that from dust and shadow, something bright will always rise. The flame is small, but it will not go out. It burns in hearts and hands, in stories told softly at night. In every shadow, in every forgotten corner, there is a light. Not the light of triumph, but the light of endurance. And that light, that quiet, steadfast light, is the true legacy of Rome. Beyond the marble, beyond the cities, the earth stretches wide, a sea of grass and sky. Here, the wind is king. The steppe awakes with every breath of morning, each blade of grass a story, each horizon a promise. It is a land of freedom and of fierce survival. And in its heart, a new story is about to be born. She was not born for a throne, but for battle. Rodigan's vow was carved not in stone, but in resolve. She swore she would not wash her hair until the rebellion was crushed. Her soldiers saw in her not a princess, but a storm, unyielding, relentless, in a world ruled by men. She became legend by the sweat of her brow, and the strength of her sword. The air crackles with tension. Whispers of rebellion stir like dust on the steppe. Rodigan rides among her people, her eyes sharp, her heart steady. She knows the cost of delay. Each dawn brings battle closer. Each night thickens the shadows. But in this storm of steel and smoke, she is both shield and spear. The rising sun will witness her fight, and history will remember her name. Her hair clings to her skin, heavy with sweat, dust, and defiance. A vow made in silence, yet thunderous in meaning. She will not wash away the battle's stain until her enemies are broken, until her people stand unshaken. This vow is her armor, her prayer, her promise. And with it, she binds herself to the fate of her land. No surrender, no retreat. The city looms cold and defiant. Its walls hold stories of rebellion and fear. Rodigan's voice cuts through the clamor, commands sharp as arrows. Her warriors move as one, a tide of iron and resolve. The siege is brutal, each moment a dance with death. Yet she stands with them, not above, but within the storm. When hope falters, she becomes its flame. Her voice rises over the plains, a cry that shakes the earth, that breathes life into weary limbs. Her people hear not a distant princess, but a leader who fights, who bleeds, who believes. In her vow, they find strength. In her sacrifice, they find purpose. And together, they forge a future from the ashes of rebellion. Not all battles are fought on fields. Some are waged in whispers and shadows. Betrayal slips like a serpent through her ranks, trusted allies swayed by gold and fear. Rodigan senses the fracture, feels the poison beneath her feet. Yet she does not falter. Her resolve hardens, her vow deepens, for true leadership demands not only strength, but unyielding vigilance. The morning air is cold, each breath a cloud of fire. Steel meets steel, not just for victory, but for honor, for the soul of a people. Rodigan fights not for glory, but for the promise whispered in her vow. Every strike is a word, every parry a sentence in the story she writes with blood and courage. Before the storm returns, there is a silence that speaks, a moment to gather breath, to remember what is at stake. Rodigan touches the cold steel, a reminder of both power and price. She whispers promises only the night can hear. Her vow remains unbroken, her spirit unbowed. And when dawn breaks again, so will she. The earth sings beneath their feet, a song of triumph, hard-won and true. Rodigan rides at the front, her hair still heavy, her vow still alive. The rebellion falls, but the story only grows. For in every battle, in every sacrifice, she has forged a legacy, not of crowns, but of courage. And the steppe remembers. The bell did not toll, and yet the world changed. She needs no herald, only rhythm, only the truth of footstep and fire. A child sees her and beats the drum, not from fear, but from wonder. The gates do not open in haste. They listen first, for in the sound of a child's drum, truth walks closer than armies ever could. She does not command the heavens, but they move with her, slow, ancient, inevitable. She walks not to conquer, but to continue, to carry a story forward until the stars forget the names of kings, but remember the shape of her journey. She walks through stars, and they do not look away. Empires stamp coins. Rodigan stamps grain, not minted gold, but food for the forgotten. She seals every sack with her mark, not to claim, but to assure, to tell the hungry, this will reach you. This is not for profit. This is for peace. And somewhere, in a far-off winter, a mother breaks bread and thanks a name she's never heard. Far beyond the steppe, where salt stains the wind, they speak her name into shells. Old women who remember when stories rode the tide instead of ships. They hear her in the surf, Not her words, but her silence. The hush of one who walks without trumpets. The sea does not lie. And it says, "She is coming." The desert shows no mercy to vanity. Bronze tarnishes. Features fade. But in the cracked mirror, Rodigan sees not herself, but every face she has walked with. The orphan, the widow, the soldier who chose not to kill. She is not one woman now. She is many, and the wind softly wipes the mirror clean. Thread by thread, a new flag is born, not flown from towers, but worn around shoulders, stitched into the cuffs of children. Rodigan's banner is not raised, it is lived. A falcon for swiftness, a broken chain for release, and an open hand for those still too afraid to reach. In backrooms and borderlands, the weavers sing. Some debts are paid in silence. No promises, no oaths, only salt, the old currency of grief and healing. Rodigan trades without words. She does not ask what was lost. She only gives, and the elder nods, for sometimes the weight of salt feels like forgiveness. Some fires burn not to warm, but to witness, to keep memory alive when no tongue will speak it. Rodigan sits in silence, surrounded by ash, and the ghosts of those whose prayers once rose with smoke. She does not claim the temple. She listens, and the fire, faithful as breath, remembers with her. When the city burned, they did not look back, not because they were brave, but because she was ahead. Rodigan rides not behind, but before, and they follow her shadow into dawn. Above them, doves rise. They do not know her name, but in every footstep, they feel its weight. She is not escape, she is direction. The bowl asked a question. Rodigan answered, not with gold, but with what she carried. She knelt, poured lentils into the silence, and looked the child in the eyes. In that moment, she was not leader, but kin, and every elder watching knew. Power lies not in the filled bowl, but in the one who kneels to fill it. She does not walk by stars, nor by cardinal winds. Her compass spins, unmoored by the usual laws, because where she goes, there is no map. She charts by people, by pain, by promise. And the needle, confused, points not north, but toward change, toward story, toward a world not yet written. There are nights too heavy for dreams, when the wind whispers of what may come, and every candle feels like a promise. Rodigan does not sleep. She listens to the creak of the walls, the sigh of snow, the flicker of flame. Leaders speak by day, but at night they listen to the darkness, to the doubt, to the shape of the future taking breath in silence. Far from the wind-wrung grasslands, beneath ceilings gilded in gold leaf and power, they speak her name. Rodigan, once dust in a courier's script, now an echo that climbs colonnades. Not spoken loudly, but mouthed behind palms. Is she real? Is she threat? Or worse, an idea that cannot be killed? Empires fear the untraceable. They fear what grows without permission. And in their fear, they write her name more times than their own. Justice, when true, does not wear a crown. It crouches in rags. It waits in alleyways, watching the rich walk past. Rodigan presides without sitting. She stands, a shadow at the wall. The merchant trembles, for it is not law that condemns him now, but the famine he caused. A girl, no more than 8, raises bread crust to the torchlight, green with rot. And still, they paid for it. Rodigan does not speak. She doesn't have to. Judgment is already done. Once, war walked here. Boots churned earth, and blades drank rainwater tinged with ash. Now, barley grows, taller than spears, gentler than history remembers. Rodigan passed through this valley, and said only, let the weapons rot. And so they did, the axe forgotten, feeds the worms, and peace, softly stubborn, takes root. She never builds temples, only spaces, places where the wind is free, where prayer does not echo from domes, but lifts, unhindered. This shrine has no walls, only presence. People come not to worship, but to sit, to feel, to remember. Rodigan kneels there sometimes. She doesn't ask for power. She asks to be worthy of what follows. Revolutions are not always loud. Sometimes they arrive in ink and insomnia. An engineer cannot sleep. Rodigan asked for water, not for herself, but for the village 4 days' ride north. Now he drafts, he sketches, he sweats, because one woman asked, and because her voice makes men want to build again. She does not give speeches tonight. She listens, because the moon is high, and wisdom is not loud. Around her sit those who have survived too long to believe in saviors. But they speak of hunger, of daughters lost, of rain that never came. Rodigan does not promise. She absorbs. The night holds their sorrow, like a mother cups a wounded bird. And by dawn, there is a plan. Every patch tells a story. A trader's silk from the east, a weaver's wool from the hill tribes, a child's drawing embroidered in clumsy love. She wears them all because she is made of them all. Rodigan's cloak is not royal, it is communal. It flutters not with grandeur, but with memory. And when she walks, they see themselves stitched in her shadow. He was told to guard against invasion, but what he watches for now is different. Hope, signs of Rodigan's path. Grain caravans, laughter in old villages, banners with her falcon. He lowers the spyglass and smiles, because some invasions come not to take, but to give, to remake the world, not with blood, but with bread. He came from nowhere, no color, no name, and yet he walks behind her, day after day, mile after mile. He asks for nothing, not even recognition, but when danger approaches, he stands between her and it. Rodigan never speaks to him, but once she left a piece of bread where he slept, and that was enough. Time moves differently now. It no longer belongs to emperors. In the back of a dusty shop, a girl learns her father's trade and whispers Rodigan's name. With every gear she turns, midnight is not an end, but a hinge, a moment between the world that was and the one being built. The pendulum swings, carving hours into history, and Rodigan, tick by tick, moves it forward. It was said that beyond the 9th river, past the pine forests where the wind speaks, in guttural syllables and frozen groans, there lay a banner, older than memory. It bears the dragon, not of myth, but of dominion. The eastern warlords had watched the west grow soft, soft with poetry, soft with peace. Rodigan's rise, they thought, was a whisper, but now they raise steel, not out of fear, but to remind the world that the dragon still breathes. Empires have roads. Rodigan has whispers, threads invisible, strung from town to village to outpost. Each voice carries another, a mother's sigh, a magistrate's secret, a baker's warning. They move faster than horses, truer than trumpets, and when the first dragon banner rises, Rodigan already knows, because the world has started to whisper back. Not all offerings are sweet. Some come laced with messages. This blade, thin ceremonial, a mark of a hidden sect, was never meant to kill. It was meant to signal. A faction within the warlord's court has grown tired of conquest. They remember drought. They remember plague. And they remember mercy. Rodigan does not move. She simply plucks the fig, eats around the blade, and places it back in the basket. She knows the war has begun, but not all enemies remain so. No army marches through these hills, only memory and hands too small for spears. They carve, not idols, but promises, the symbol of the falcon, the rising sun, the open palm. Rodigan does not stop them. She kneels, takes the chisel, and adds a single feather. Even if she falls, these walls will remember. Every movement grows too large, and in its size comes weakness. One of her own, trusted, fed beside her, sheltered in snow, now holds the goblet. He does not drink, he only waits, and in the wine, Rodigan sees herself, older, weary, unshaken. She says nothing, for betrayal is not new, only sharper. When carved from love, the snows came early, the fields cracked, but Rodigan rides not to war, not yet. She rides with grain, for in the starving towns, even legends are eaten. The caravan grinds forward, day by frost-bitten day. Children peer from doorways, eyes hollow. Rodigan lifts a sack herself, places it before a midwife. She doesn't speak. The gesture is louder than any horn. All stories begin with thirst. A dry mouth, a hollow land. The well was dry when they arrived, frozen, stone-lipped, forgotten. But this flower, a stubborn bloom in defiance, marks where water dreams. Rodigan kneels, not to pluck, but to listen, for the land too has a voice, and sometimes it speaks through roots. A queen in all but crown sits with the lowest rank. The fire crackles, bread passes from hand to hand, stories rise, and laughter, tentative, like a deer stepping onto ice, begins to flutter. Rodigan doesn't command. She listens. A soldier, missing 3 fingers, asks her if victory is possible. She says, if we love more than they fear. Yes, the hearth becomes a torch. It was meant to hold them back, to mark the limit of passage. But Rodigan does not walk where she is told. The chain breaks not by force, but by fatigue, rusted by rain, weakened by years. And when it falls, the people do not cheer. They simply walk forward, as if they had always been free. Rodigan watches. Sometimes, to change the world, you do nothing but step past the line. Winter does not surrender. It tires, and in that exhaustion, a single green thread pierces the ice. Rodigan waits for it, not as conqueror, but as witness. She places her hand to the ground, whispers something the wind carries. Spring does not arrive all at once. It begins in one breath. And in that breath, Rodigan stands. The war ahead still rumbles. But life always insists. The fields do not shout. They do not demand. They wait for hands that know how to listen to the soft stir of earth, the quiet hum of life beneath skin. Rodigan walks through the grain, feeling each stalk, learning their language, a language older than empires, spoken in silence, answered in growth. The fire burns not because it must, but because it can. In the long, unyielding night, when doubt presses close, when the cold whispers of despair, the flame endures. Rodigan tends it with quiet hands, knowing that hope is a fragile thing, a single spark, waiting for breath. Messages travel on wings, in songs and sighs. A messenger bird takes flight, carrying more than word or warning, carrying spirit, carrying faith. Rodigan releases it into dawn, watching it soar, not away from war, but toward peace, toward a world waiting to listen. There is power in what is unseen. The sword is not always drawn. Sometimes it waits, patient as winter, silent as shadow. Rodigan holds hers close, not for glory, but for promise, a promise made to those who cannot fight, that she will stand when they cannot. Every scar on the shield is a story told, not of battles won or lost, but of survival, of protection given freely, of hands lifted in defense. Rodigan's shield carries more than paint. It carries the weight of all who stand behind her, a mosaic of courage woven from broken chains and falcon wings. Mountains hide their secrets well. Veiled in mist and memory, they watch centuries pass. Without hurry or hope, Rodigan climbs, not to conquer, but to understand. Each step echoes with the ghosts of those who came before, and those who will come after. The summit waits patiently, as does history. Some promises are made, without words. The night listens, holds breath, as two souls reach across silence. No hand is shaken, no vow spoken aloud. Yet the pact is clear, a bridge built in shadows, stronger than steel, binding destinies without chains. Light is a quiet rebellion. A candle flickers, braving wind, braving darkness. Rodigan's flame burns not for herself, but for every soul that needs a beacon. In the deepest night, she holds the flame steady, knowing that even a single light can ignite 1,000 more. Some roads do not exist until they are walked. Rodigan moves beyond the known, beyond maps and memory. She carves a path without tracks, inviting others to follow, to shape the earth anew. The forest breathes around her, watching the birth of a journey that no one saw coming, guided not by compasses, nor by kings, but by a star, constant, fierce, unwavering. Rodigan looks upward and finds her course, a light in the dark, a promise in the cold. She is not lost. She is found by the future she carries in her eyes. The storm does not ask permission. It arrives, a breath that shatters stillness, that bends the grass to its will. Rodigan waits, not afraid of thunder, but ready to harness its fury. For the tempest that breaks the old world also clears the way. For the new, steel sings in the air, a song older than kingdoms. The clash is sudden, brutal, a dance of life and death. Rodigan's voice rises, not in command, but in challenge. She moves among her warriors, not above them. The battle is not won by strength alone, but by the courage to stand. When the world falls apart, the falcon sees beyond the immediate. Its eyes pierce dust, pierce fear, pierce the veil of confusion. Rodigan carries the falcon in her heart, a symbol of vision, of freedom. She trusts what it sees, not the noise of the moment, but the path beyond. Rivers remember. They carry the tears of battle, the stains of sacrifice. Rodigan gazes at the water, seeing both loss and hope reflected. The blood spilled is not forgotten, but woven into the story of survival. And the river, patient as time, promises renewal. Peace is not silence. It is a whisper, carried on wind, seen in blossoms, heard in birdsong. Rodigan reaches for peace, not as a prize, but as a seed, a fragile beginning, planted in war's shadow. The night is long, but dawn is certain. Each ray of light pierces the darkness, a promise kept. Rodigan stands, not as conqueror, but as witness, to the world that turns, to the future unfolding. Not every battle is fought aloud. Some are waged in silence, in shadows, in secrets held tight. Rodigan's blade is quiet, waiting, ready, for when words fail, steel must speak. Strength is not only in war, it is in healing, in the touch that soothes pain, that stitches flesh and spirit alike. Rodigan knows this, and offers both sword and care, For to lead is to hold the broken and the brave. Empires are not built alone. They are woven, thread by thread, bond by bond. Rodigan's strength lies in the web she spins. Alliances born in trust, in shared hopes, in whispered promises. Each connection, a lifeline across the uncertain. In the darkest hours, they gather, not to mourn, but to remember. Candles flicker, their flames steady against the wind. Rodigan stands among them, one light among many. Together, they hold the night at bay. Each arrow is a promise, swift, unerring. Rodigan's aim is clear, to protect, to strike with purpose. The path of the arrow is brief, but its impact echoes through time. They stand together, a wall of flesh and iron, not just to block, but to protect. Each shield a story, each warrior a heartbeat. Rodigan leads, not from above, but from within the wall itself. Sometimes the heavens speak, in fire, in fleeting light. A falling star draws a line across the sky, a fleeting sign, a reminder that even the brightest flames must eventually return to darkness. Justice is balance, between mercy and law, between power and humility. Rodigan weighs not gold, but truth. Her scales tip toward hope. Though the burden is heavy, her resolve is steady. The wind carries stories, some forgotten, some yet to be told. Rodigan listens to the sigh of grass, to the murmur of leaves. She learns from the wind how to bend without breaking, how to rise again after every fall. At the summit, the world spreads wide, a mosaic of dreams and fears. Rodigan stands, not to conquer, but to remember that every peak is reached, one steady step at a time. Peace is fragile, a white wing in the sky. Rodigan releases the dove, a symbol, a prayer, a promise that even amidst war, hope will always find flight. The road is long, uncertain, unwritten, but Rodigan walks it with steady heart. Every footprint she leaves is an invitation to those who will follow. Each morning brings a new beginning. The sun rises, not to erase the past, but to illuminate the future. Rodigan breathes in the dawn, ready, willing, unbroken. Legacies are not built in a day. They begin in the eyes of a child, in wonder, in hope, in the quiet knowing that the world can change. Rodigan's story is theirs to carry, and in their hands, the future, under the boundless canopy of stars. Wisdom gathers like fireflies, soft glimmers in the night. Rodigan listens, not as queen, but as seeker, learning the silent songs. The elders hum, the stories etched in constellations. Each star a lesson, each whisper a thread, woven into the tapestry of fate. Time moves like sand, endless, inevitable. It slips through fingers, marks moments lost and gained. Rodigan feels its weight, not as prison, but as gift. For every grain is a chance, to build, to change, to endure. The dance is fierce but fluid, a conversation without words. Each strike a question, each parry an answer. Rodigan moves with grace, not cruelty, teaching, learning, sharpening the edges of will and skill. Beneath the harvest moon, the earth gives back fruits of toil, hope of survival. Rodigan walks among her people, feeling the pulse of gratitude, of shared effort. Even in war's shadow, life persists. Fire does not discriminate. It devours friend and foe alike. The village burns, and with it memories, laughter, loss, love. Rodigan's heart aches, but her spirit hardens. From ashes, something new must rise. The eagle's shadow falls, a sign of dominion, of freedom's fierce gaze. Rodigan draws strength from its flight, soaring beyond chains, beyond fear, a symbol not of conquest, but of vision. Walls do not only divide, they protect, they endure. Rodigan's people build, stone by stone, hope by hope, a fortress against chaos, against time. The steppe breathes, a living expanse of endless sky, whispering grass. Rodigan feels its pulse, connected to its vastness, its freedom, its wild heart. Here, she is both small and infinite. The call is clear, a summons woven of sound and spirit. No hesitation, no fear. Rodigan's warriors rise, each heartbeat a drum, each step a promise. They move as one, the tide before the storm. The last light fades, soft hues swallowed by night. Rodigan watches, weary but unbowed. Each day ends, but her journey, her legacy, burns on beyond the dusk. In the stillness, hope gathers, a fragile flame, protected fiercely. Rodigan's eyes meet theirs, silent vows exchanged, strength renewed. Together, they hold the fragile light. Against the dark, the rhythm of the steed beats like a heart, steady, relentless. Rodigan rides, each hoofbeat, a drumbeat of destiny. In the quiet woods, nature offers remedies, silent healers, whispering cures. Rodigan honors this gift, understanding that strength is not only in battle, but in renewal. Darkness holds its secrets close. Waiting, watching, Rodigan steps forward, not with fear, but with purpose. For in shadow, light is most fierce. The moon reflects, soft, constant, a quiet witness to all things. Rodigan gazes, seeking clarity, finding strength. In stillness, an oath is more than words. It is the soul laid bare. Rodigan swears, to protect, to endure, to lead not by command, but by example. The edge of battle is sharp and unforgiving. Rodigan's heart steadies, each breath a blade, cutting through fear. Here, she stands, unyielding, unbroken. The wolf calls to the night, a song of loyalty, of survival. Rodigan hears, knowing she carries that same fierce spirit within. Dawn breaks anew, each day a chance, each moment a beginning. Rodigan steps forward, not alone, but carried by the hopes of all who follow. The flame never dies, passed from hand to hand, generation to generation. Rodigan's fire burns eternal, a beacon in the night, a light that will guide. Long after the stars fade, the earth is patient. Beneath the weight of history, beneath the scars of war, she waits, silent and steady, offering life anew. Rodigan touches the soil, feeling the heartbeat of all that is to come. Light dances with shadow, fragile and fierce. The flame flickers, reminding us that even the smallest spark can hold the darkest night at bay. The path is endless, marked only by hoofbeats and hope. Rodigan rides, a force carved by wind and will, leading those who dare to follow beyond the horizon. Time weaves stories, threads of triumph and trial. Rodigan's journey is but one strand, woven tightly into the fabric of eternity. Stars speak in silence. Their light travels through time, whispers from ages past, guiding those who dare to listen in the dark. To stand is to protect, to be the unyielding wall between chaos and hope. Rodigan's shield is not just wood and iron, it is the promise to stand firm when all else falters. Healing is quiet strength, the touch that mends flesh and spirit alike. Rodigan offers both sword and solace, knowing that endurance is born in compassion. The clash resounds, a symphony of struggle. Rodigan moves within it, a pulse of purpose, amidst the roar of battle. Each dawn brings promise, a new chance to forge a future. From the ashes of the past, Rodigan breathes in the light, ready to meet the day, with unwavering resolve. Peace is not absence of conflict, but the embrace of understanding. Rodigan's vision is a world where hands meet, not in battle, but in unity. Mountains watch silently, witnesses to the passing of ages. Rodigan draws strength from their steady gaze, rooted deep, unchanging, eternal. The hearth's warmth is a refuge, a circle of light in the dark. Rodigan cherishes these moments where strength is shared and hope is kindled. In the heart of home, the eagle flies beyond sight, free, fierce and unbound. Rodigan holds its spirit within, a call to rise above, to see the world whole. The road stretches endlessly, a pathway paved by dreams, by courage, by the choices made. With every step forward, the moon's glow soothes the restless, a silver promise. That light exists, even in deepest night. Balance is the heart of justice. Delicate, demanding, Rodigan strives to hold it. Between mercy and might, between past and future, the forest whispers secrets, lessons learned in silence, in growth, in the patient dance of life and decay. Light guarded with care, fragile yet fierce, Rodigan holds her flame close, knowing it must never be extinguished. The journey unfolds, each step forward, a testament to resolve, to the unyielding will, to forge a new path. Legacy is born in wonder, in the eyes of those who dream, who dare to believe that the fire will burn on, long after we are gone. And so the story finds its quiet close, not with a bang, but with a breath, a gentle settling of dust on the pages of time. The world spins onward, carrying whispers of those who came before, their footsteps etched in stone, their voices carried on the wind. Rodigan's courage lingers, a flame kindled in the heart of history, lighting paths for those yet to come. The land she crossed still hum with the memories of battle and peace, of strength born in struggle, and hope woven through hardship. Like the bees that once thrived alongside ancient hands, we too are part of a delicate dance, of nature and culture, of survival and spirit. Rest now in this moment. Let the echoes of the past quiet your mind and cradle you gently into dreams, for every ending is but a beginning, and in the stillness of night, the eternal journey continues. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the wisdom of those who shaped our world. Victory does not end the story. It begins another. Rodigan returns not to peace, but to responsibility. From battlefield to banner hall, she builds not a palace, but a sanctuary of strength. Tents become towers, flickering fires become hearths, and beneath her gaze, a kingdom begins to rise. From the very soil that once drank blood, history is a creature of ink and memory. And already, Rodigan's tale is whispered by candlelight. A song, a warning, a myth in the making. The chronicler's hand trembles with awe, for he does not merely write of war. He records the heartbeat of a legend, who walks among the living, her vow still binding her like fate. Even heroes must govern. Even fire must be tempered. Rodigan listens, her eyes like stone, as her council debates the shape of peace. Alliances hang by threads. Jealousy simmers like coals beneath robes. But she is no stranger to heat. She speaks with the clarity of steel, and silence follows. For when Rodigan speaks, the world listens. In quiet hours, the question lingers: who will carry the flame? The warrior becomes mother, perhaps. Yet she carries more than child. She bears a kingdom's future, a people's myth, and the memory of every fallen brother. Rodigan, unwashed still, remembers her vow, with each breath of wind against her face. Years pass, winds change, and at last, a basin of water stands before her. The rebellion is over, but the vow is not forgotten. The elders chant, the people watch, and Rodigan kneels, not in surrender, but in sanctity. She touches the water. Her fingers tremble. The vow is washed clean, but the woman remains unbroken. Not all wounds bleed. Some return with hollow eyes, carrying ghosts instead of gifts. Rodigan meets them with silence, not a queen's gaze, but a comrade's. Her bare feet stand upon the earth that once drank their pain. Forgiveness is not a word, but an embrace, and her arms are open. Already, she becomes more than mortal. Children play at being her. Old warriors speak her name, with reverence and laughter. She is not just Rodigan. She is thunder. She is fire. She is the vow and the blade. But in her tent, she sharpens her sword alone, for myths do not rest, and peace is never permanent. Peace breeds serpents, from silk and silver. New wars weave their webs. Rodigan watches the envoy's eyes. Too calm, too knowing. The gifts are poison wrapped in lace. The words are daggers veiled in velvet. And she, seasoned by steel, feels the cold of coming storms. Beneath even the warmest smile, not all warnings are shouted. Some are whispered by leaves, by wind, by crones who see too much. Rodigan kneels among roots, listening as the herbalist speaks of dreams, visions of fire, and a blade without a name. And though she laughs, a chill rides her spine, for she knows omens speak the old language of truth. Power tempts the cruel, but Rodigan remembers the cost of chains. She buries them, not as relics, but as reminders, a symbol to all who serve her. This kingdom will not be built on bondage, not while she lives, not while the steppe breathes her name. It is in silence that leaders truly hear. The land speaks no language, but Rodigan knows its voice. It hums beneath her bones, a lullaby of old pain and older purpose. Far beyond her firelight, something is shifting. The stars blink in quiet warning, and the wind forgets its name. They come not to greet, but to measure, envoys of a distant emperor, their words dipped in honey, their hands heavy with scrolls and threats. They speak of alliances, of trade and protection, but Rodigan sees the numbers, etched behind their eyes. They have come to weigh her, and her sword still hangs at her side. Not all peace is peace. Some treaties are just new chains. Rodigan reads the scroll, then drops it into fire. The ink curls, the seal softens, and somewhere, far away, an emperor clenches his hand. She has chosen defiance. Again, always, a kingdom does not sleep through prophecy. Rodigan walks the battlements, her steps slow, certain. She speaks little. Her silence does more than commands. Every nail hammered, every stone moved, is a hymn to survival. They prepare not for a battle, but for a siege of destiny. Lines on paper mean little, without blood to bind them. Rodigan traces the sand lines, her brow furrowed. Where would they strike? The map is a mirror, and she sees herself in its cracks. A queen born of rebellion, now reading the paths of empires. She does not wait. She hunts answers like wolves stalk deer. Rodigan sends her riders, not to attack, but to listen. Every hoofbeat on the plain is a heartbeat of warning, and every shadow may be the edge of war. Seasons turn, but valor remains. Autumn cloaks the kingdom in amber, but beneath the gold, steel waits. Rodigan watches from a hilltop, where her people prepare not for glory, but for the right to stand and fall, if they must, with eyes wide open. The gods no longer speak in thunder. Now they whisper through bone and smoke. Rodigan kneels as the oracle speaks, of cities swallowed in dust, of swords weeping blood, and of a queen standing alone. At the edge of the world, she rises marked, not chosen, but warned. You never forget the feel of a blade. When the call echoes, even the old stir. Rodigan welcomes them without words. They nod once, and fall into rank, not for her crown, but for the fire they see still burning. In her eyes, there is a moment before war, a stillness, one candle, one letter, one breath before the blade. Rodigan writes not to the enemy, nor to her generals. She writes to the girl she used to be, and signs it, I kept the vow. The sky remembers before the people do. It draws a veil across its stars, tucks away the moon. It breathes low, heavy, even the horses refuse to run. Rodigan stands beneath that sky, her eyes narrowed, not in fear, but in recognition. This is not weather. This is omen, the kind that shifts the bones of the earth, the kind that rips open history. You do not prepare for war all at once. You sharpen one arrow, then another, each shaft a promise, each feather a prayer. Rodigan walks among them, quiet as snowfall. She touches a quiver here, nods once there. Words have done all they can. Now, the silence of preparation takes its throne. In her people's tongue, the crow is not a harbinger of death, but a watcher of fate. Rodigan raises the crow feather banner to the highest place in camp. Let the wind speak through it. Let it watch the fields. Let all who come know. The queen is not hiding. The queen is waiting. Even queens need the hands of mothers. They do not ride. They do not march, but their prayers move faster than hooves. Rodigan watches them from afar, and for the first time in many nights, she allows herself one deep breath, the kind that begins in the womb and ends in the sky. They do not sing, not tonight. There is no need, only the crackle of fire, the clink of blade against stone, the heartbeat of comradeship. Rodigan does not sit above them. She sits among them, one of many, many of one. Fire binds more than warmth. It binds memory. This is the coin I carried through my first war. He says, it brought me luck. Now it belongs to someone braver. Rodigan turns it over slowly. It is light in the hand, but heavy in meaning. The weight of trust, the price of leadership, the memory of another war, folded into her own. All wars are theft. They steal sons from fields, fathers from tables, sleep from every eye. Rodigan knows this. She sees it in the clenched jaws of the men who no longer till, but kill. She makes no speeches, only a vow that the fields will bloom again. One day, frost is the first enemy. It comes before blades. It kisses the grass and bones alike. In the east, where dawn stirs slow and suspicious, the frost lies heavier now. Rodigan sees no men, but she sees footprints. They do not belong to her people. The empire is coming, quiet as breath, cold as coin. One sound is all it takes, a long, slow note, neither panicked nor shrill, just certain. The horn echoes across every tent, every ridge, every spine. Rodigan rises. She does not rush. She has known this hour. Since the vow that still tangles her hair, the vow that ties her to this land. The enemy has stepped into her story. This is the last moment of peace. It does not feel like peace, but it is stillness. Moonlight dances on her blade. She feels the breath of her horse, the breath of her soldiers, the breath of the land itself. Holding, waiting. War is not rage. It is ritual, and the curtain is rising. Before the first cry, there is dust. Before the first wound, there is dust. It swells like a memory returning too fast, clouding the eyes of men who swore they'd never see another war. Rodigan watches from her high saddle, face still as stone, heart slower than breath. She does not yet move. Not yet. The land must first remember what it means to bleed. There is always one who cannot wait, one whose grief overtook training, whose brother still speaks to him in dreams. He charges like thunder torn from a tree, and for a moment, both armies watch the lone shape fly. Rodigan does not call him back. She lets the gods take him. The first axe opens the gate. The war begins. To ride is not enough. To fly is not enough. To become wind, this is the art. Rodigan's cavalry moves like smoke wrapped in muscle. Horses twist mid-stride, arrows bending the air behind them. Not a charge, but a dance of ghosts, a language older than any crown. The Empire has not fought wind before. It does not know how to bleed with grace. But Empire knows how to wait, how to endure. They are a wall, each man not a man, but a stone in a greater monument. They chant, they strike the rims of their shields. They do not look at the sky, nor at Rodigan. They look only forward, as if the world ends, just one sword length away. There is a moment before war bites, when everything holds its breath. You hear your own lungs. You hear your horse tremble. You hear the gods stop speaking. Rodigan leans forward in her saddle. She raises her hand, not in signal, but in farewell. This is the last bloodless hour, and it is already over. History does not begin with silence. It begins with sound, piercing, layered, terrible. Rodigan's horns cry out, not to frighten, but to declare, we are still here. We are not forgotten. We will not be folded quietly into your archives. The horses move. The ground shakes. The scroll begins to burn. Death is rarely fast. It limps. It stutters. It forgets its lines. Rodigan steps through the haze of blood and dust, past a boy barely 16, his blade still clean, past an old man with a spear through his chest, still breathing in disbelief. This is not glory. This is payment. They wait, not out of fear, but out of memory. They have seen this before, 1,000 times. Wolves without teeth, only patience. They know the feast is not ready. Rodigan sees them on the ridges, watching like judges. She nods once. Yes, you will eat tonight. Not all visions come in dreams. Some arrive while you are still bleeding. Rodigan sees cities. Not hers. Not yet. But cities born from this smoke. Towers where her name is whispered in languages unborn. She does not smile. She does not cry. She only rises. The work is not done. She does not dream tonight. The body has no room for dreams after war. Only silence. Only breath. The moon leans in, as if to ask, was this what you wanted? Rodigan does not answer. She sleeps the sleep of the vowed, the sleep of the damned, the sleep of queens who are not yet finished. Morning does not weep. It rises, indifferent, golden, and vast, casting light on broken spears, shattered helms, and faces turned skyward with eyes no longer needing them. Rodigan walks through the wreckage, not seeking the living, but listening for what the dead are trying to say. There is no glory here, only judgment, and the slow, cold weight of what must follow. She does not speak first. Rodigan lets the men speak of terrain and provisions, of flanking routes and the wear on saddle leather. But when she speaks, the maps fall still. Her voice is low, shaped like distant thunder. She speaks not of battles, but of futures, of empires that will crack under their own stone, of smoke that will become law, of a world waiting to forget who once called it theirs. Among the vanquished was one who would not kneel, not old enough to carry a sword, but old enough to remember his mother's voice. He stood as if made of iron, his sling dangling, his hunger visible like ribs drawn by charcoal. Rodigan knelt to him, not to lower herself, but to see him clearly. "You are not mine," she whispered, "but you will walk with me until you choose otherwise." And so he followed, the first of her shadows. War leaves no untouched place, not even the places it forgets to name. Charred timbers speak of fire's greed. Wind sighs through what were once cradles. Rodigan rides without turning her head, but her knuckles are white against the reins. This is not conquest. This is aftermath, and it will follow her like smoke in her lungs. Some rebuild not with bricks, but with flame. She lights the candles one by one, each wick a name, each flicker a son lost, a daughter vanished, a prayer unsaid. Rodigan watches from afar. She does not interrupt. Some wounds are not hers to bandage, only to remember, and never repeat. They came not to kneel, but to test her. They had heard the rumors, a woman of iron and shadow, who did not flinch from empire. Now they looked with eyes not yet convinced. Rodigan did not plead. She told stories, of storms she had ridden, of nights when her blood froze into resolve. And when she finished, none applauded, but none stood to leave. Victory is not built in marble halls. It is hammered together from wood, sweat, and the slow rhythm of breath. Rodigan lifts no tool, but her presence builds more than walls. Children watch her. Elders nod when she passes. Even the wind shifts when she rides near. The people do not follow her out of fear. They follow because she does not pretend they are tools, only sparks. Empires do not sleep. They dream only of retribution. The message comes wrapped in ash, an ultimatum dressed as diplomacy. Rodigan opens it beneath a cold tree. Her hands do not tremble. The words are poison, but she has drunk worse. She does not burn the letter. She saves it for the fire to come. Not all ran, not all could. Some stayed behind and paid the price. The Empire does not forgive rebellion, but Rodigan does not forget names. And the time for remembering has come. Every shackle will be counted. Every scar will be given a voice. And vengeance, when it comes, will not wear armor, but memory. Not all emperors sit on thrones. Some crouch behind titles. Some move armies with fingers still clean. This one smiles when he hears her name, but his smile is full of teeth. He sees her not as threat, but as sport. He will send gifts first, then spies, then fire. Rodigan does not yet know his name, but soon the wind will carry it to her ear, and she will not be surprised, only ready. The desert does not forget the steps that cross it. Even when the footprints fade, the wind carries their echo, soft as a breath, sharp as a blade. Rodigan listens to these whispers, each one a secret born from dust and dreams. She knows the Empire watches, but here, under the vast sky, she holds the silence like a shield. Before the storm, there is always a quiet like this. War is not only fought with armies. Sometimes it moves in shadows, in the quiet click of a blade, in the unseen footsteps behind a city wall. Rodigan understands the language of silence. Her enemies will learn to fear the spaces where words cannot reach, and the shadows that do not flicker. The quiet blade is the fiercest of all. The steppe is alive with thunder. The riders become the storm itself, wild, unbridled, relentless. Each hoofbeat is a drumbeat of defiance. Rodigan leads, not from behind, but at the heart of the tempest. Her voice rings clear, cutting through the chaos. She is both storm and calm, both hunter and hunted, and the Empire will learn to respect the wind. Trust is a fragile thing. One broken promise can ignite 1,000 fires. Rodigan knows the price of betrayal. She has seen homes burned not by enemies, but by those who once stood beside her. The ash falls like judgment. But from the ruins rises something colder, something harder. A resolve sharpened by loss, a heart forged in flame. Not all power shines in daylight. Some rule in shadow, quiet, unseen, unyielding. Rodigan moves through darkness like a ghost, her presence felt but rarely seen. Her shadow becomes legend, a whisper that chills bones and breaks wills. In the world of kings and empires, she is the queen of what lurks beneath the light. The storm gathers not in the sky alone. It gathers in the eyes of those who wait, in the tightening grip on spear and bow. Rodigan watches the horizon, where distant fires burn like stars fallen to earth. Her people stand on the edge, of survival, of war, of a future yet unwritten. She breathes deep. The storm will come, and she will meet it. Sometimes, words cut deeper than swords. Rodigan's voice carries across the circle, clear as a mountain stream, sharp as frost. She does not ask for loyalty, she demands it, not through fear, but through truth. She speaks of blood, of honor, of the unbreakable bond between those who stand together. Her words become armor, her voice a rallying cry. Fire is both destroyer and creator. Rodigan knows this well. She sets the fields ablaze, not out of cruelty but strategy. The land will remember the flame, and so will those who come after. In fire's wake, new paths are born, new futures carved from smoke and ash. When the world tries to break you, you must become the unyielding wall. Rodigan's warriors stand shoulder to shoulder, a living fortress of iron and bone. Their shields catch the fury of Empire's rage, their spears the thunder that answers it. In their steadfastness lies hope, in their unity, survival, and in Rodigan's gaze, the promise of dawn. Legends do not begin with conquest alone. They begin in the quiet moments, the first breath after the storm, the steady step into a future claimed. Rodigan stands as dawn breaks, her silhouette etched in gold and shadow. She is not just a warrior, she is a promise, a story whispered on the wind, a queen who carved her name into the bones of the earth. Sometimes, a leader must listen not to the shouts of men, but to the breath of the stone, the whisper beneath the soil. Rodigan walks the caves of her ancestors, where stories were etched before language was born. The torch sputters, the walls speak, and in the silence between echoes, she finds herself again, a daughter of earth, a child of myth. Even stone can remember, even dust can sing. There was a time when queens did not sit on thrones. They walked the wild, barefoot and crowned with stars. In the sacred grove, Rodigan touches the stone faces of the forgotten, their eyes hollow, but watching. The forest rustles with wind that remembers. She does not bow. She listens. She does not weep. She breathes their strength. And as she leaves, she carries them with her, woven into her shadow. Ash speaks when flame has finished its song. The elder's fingers trace the old runes, patterns from dreams, visions from sleep. Rodigan watches, not for belief, but for understanding. Prophecies do not bind her, but they warn, they whisper, they widen the path. And in the spirals of soot, she sees not fate, but possibility. War does not end with the last clash of blades. It lingers, in broken bones, in shattered sleep. Rodigan sits in the warmth of a healing tent, where a seamstress of wounds works without fanfare. Her needle is sharper than any sword, her thread thicker than any loyalty. The soldier breathes through pain. Rodigan watches in silence. Even queens must witness suffering, especially queens. Not all alliances are sealed with words. Some are forged in silence, in recognition, in mirrored strength. The wolf does not kneel. Rodigan does not command. They understand each other. The lone, the hunted, the unbroken. Together, they walk forward. No leash, no throne, only trust, worn like armor. Some rivers are not meant to be crossed. They hold the weight of memory, the bones of the forgotten. But Rodigan steps aboard. She crosses with eyes open, with no coin for the ferryman. The past clings to the sides of the boat, rattling like truth. Yet she does not flinch. She is not here to forget. She is here to carry them forward. Empires fall, marble cracks, names carved in gold become dust. Rodigan stands before the ruins, not with envy, but with clarity. She does not want their throne. She does not need their palaces. She builds no statues. Only memory, only movement, only the fire that refuses to go out. Before cities rise, before kings decree, there are the fire makers. Rodigan walks among them, the mothers, the sisters, the children of ash and labor. Their fingers shape the future, one ember at a time. This is where nations are born, not in palaces, but in the soot-black hands of the forgotten. Not all names are written in stone. Some are carried on the wind, invisible, unerasable. Rodigan leaves no monument behind. Only footsteps, only echoes, only stories whispered between fires. When children ask who dared to rise, the wind knows her name. And that is enough. The sky listens. Even now, Rodigan sings, not for others, but for herself. For every wound endured, every betrayal survived, every choice made alone. She was never silent, not in pain, not in battle, not in the long, cold hours before dawn. And now the stars carry her voice, not as an ending, but as a beginning. All empires begin with a line, a single finger drawn across earth, cutting river from hill, desire from dust. Rodigan's map is not of conquest, but of passage, of paths taken and waters crossed, of names remembered and songs sung. She traces no borders, only stories, only sacred paths that the wind remembers. News moves faster than armies, not by horse alone, but by heartbeat, by hush, by hunger for what might come. Rodigan's words ride ahead of her, bound not in decree, but in promise. A message tied to an arrow flies into a city that has never seen her, and yet they begin to stir. For the whisper of freedom makes even the strongest walls tremble. Some animals choose their rider. This one came without command, without rein, without fear. It stood where fire met horizon and waited. Rodigan approached, offering neither rope nor rule. And the horse bowed its head, a pact made in stillness, a steed for one who leads without chains. Peace is forged not in warmth, but in cold, when hands ache and breath smokes the air. Across the frozen river, Rodigan meets an old rival. No feast, no song, only silence, and torches that dare not flicker too high. In the language of frost and fire, they agree to step aside, not as friends, but as those who remember the price of war. The potter did not know her, but he knew of her, and in the soft curve of a bowl meant for a mother's hands, he etched her name. Not as tribute, as memory, because clay survives fire, and fire tells truth. And someday, when the city is gone, Someone will find the shard and wonder who she was. Every legend awakens another. In the rooftops, in the fields, in the hush between prayers, a girl sees Rodigan not as myth, but as mirror, and she carves a shield from scrap. Not to fight, to dream, and when Rodigan looks up and nods in silence, a spark is born that no kingdom can smother. The rain falls on all things, on victory, on regret, on the forgotten. Rodigan kneels among old bones, not to mourn, but to witness, to remember that every rise stands atop what came before. Even the ground we praise once groaned beneath suffering. The rain cleans nothing. It only softens what time could not. In the city of dust, a bell waited to be rung for war. But Rodigan came not with swords, only presence. The guards stepped aside. The people opened their doors, and the bell remained still. Sometimes silence is the loudest declaration.